and welcome to part 2 of the RoyalRows stitching method tutorials. So let's bring you over to the stitching screen. Here we are. So as you know from the previous video, we're going to start stitching the tower. If you look on the pattern keeper, let's get my pattern keeper up and running. So within the pattern keeper, I select that first stitch of the tower. I don't think you can see what the colour is because I haven't quite got it in the screen. So the colour it's calling for is 890. I hope you can see that highlighted. So I stitch with floss cards. So I put all my threads on one side of the floss cards and then I'll just pick out a thread. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to do 2/1 full cross, just so that you can get a gist of what I'm doing. Just for a visual aid, I'm doing it 2/1 full cross. Now when it comes to stitching, as we all know, you can be doing tent stitch, you can be doing full cross, 2/1, 1/1. It all depends on the count of fabric that you're using and the coverage that you are looking for. Now I normally use a ball tip needle, but again, for the purposes of this video, I am just going to use a normal needle. We'll see how we go. I might change my mind if we struggle to find a hole, because I find the ball tip needle is great for guiding and finding that stitchy hole. I'm going to show you the loop method, because we're doing 2/1. I've basically got my two ends of thread. I'm going to join them together, and then with my needle, I'll try and get this in the camera for you. Where are we? So with my needle, I will get the loop. So I've joined the two ends. As you can see, there's the two ends. Some people thread the needle there, but I find it easier if you just get the loop, pinch it between your fingers, and then get your needle and just guide it through your fingers, and then it will catch. So there we go. And then obviously we want the loop at the bottom. Okay, so we will plonk that up here. So for the loop method, I go into my top right hole of that first stitch, and then I come up in the bottom left. Now don't worry about the tension on this, because as I say, it is just for tutorial purposes. So then I go through that loop, and then I come back down where I've just come up in that top left, and then finish the cross. So there's your first stitch. So, oops. I know it's not great visually, like stitch wise, the coverage, but that's not the purpose of the video. The purpose of the video is just to show you what RoyalRows is. Ignore the coverage of this that we are stitching. So that's 2 stitches. And then the good thing with doing RoyalRows is, because you're only working within this tower, your 10x10s that are actually still within the tower, it's easy to count them out. So my next stitch, if you look on pattern keeper, is 1, 2, 3. It's 4 stitches up from the bottom, and then it's 2 across. So 1, 2, 3, and it's the 4th. And then we go across 1. See, this is why I don't like these needles, because ball tip needles find that hole straight away. So just to double check, so we've got 1, oh hang on, yeah, 1, 2, 3, and it's the 4th. So then we'll finish that cross, and then the next stitch. Now within your tower, it's personal preference on how you stitch. I personally tend to go kind of left to right, right to left within the tower, picking up the stitches as I go along, filling in those stitches as I go along, sorry. So it's this one, and this this one, then one more stitch in that tower. So looking at this, it's a 10 by 10 block that I've only filled in basically with this colour. Obviously if they were down here, then I would carry on stitching, because this is the tower, the 2 blocks. So now this is where Royal Rose comes in. Unfortunately it's not a great example with this colour, but we'll come to that on the next video. So now this colour isn't any more needed within this tower that we're stitching. So I'll then look to the dungeon on Pattern Keeper and I will see if it's needed, and as we can see it is. So in the first available stitch of that colour I will park the thread. So I'll come up and I'll leave the thread there. I'll take the needle off and leave the thread there. So there you go, and then we'll on Pattern Keeper, now I'll do it on here so you can see what I'm doing. So yeah, Pattern Keeper or Marker Par XP, whatever you're using, maybe in paper pattern, we'll mark the stitches off that we've done, and then you can select a park symbol. So I will park in the lower left corner. Select that, and then that will leave like a highlighted half the square so that you know that there is a park thread there. So yeah, that's the first colour of that tower. So let's go to our next colour, which is this symbol here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this recording and I'm going to stitch that. And then when we come back, hopefully, let's have a look at Pattern Keeper. So let's just select this next symbol. Yeah, so I'm just going to very quickly stop here and we'll do a part 3. While I'm gone, I'm just going to quickly stitch this one stitch and park it down here. And then when we come back, we'll start with that next colour, because then I can explain other aspects of Royal Rose. So join me for part 3. Thank you. See you soon.